Good afternoon, friends. My name is Allison Gampel, and I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Programs at York University. I'm absolutely delighted to be with you on this wonderfully warm November afternoon. Thank you all for joining our first session of the Fall GRADitude Speaker Series. An especially warm welcome goes to our class of 2020. Congratulations. Now, we all know that this was not the way you planned to graduate, but you did it. And you are now a part of a huge alumni family. We are 330,000 people strong and growing, sometimes dysfunctional, but mostly a tight-knit community that's here for one another. And we are so proud of you and want to welcome you to this wonderful community. Acknowledging where you are right now is very important, emotionally, intellectually, physically. And although we are not all in the same location, I ask that you acknowledge where you are. I want to acknowledge and recognize the many Indigenous nations that have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are that precede the establishment of the university. We acknowledge our presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Takaranto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Craddock First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. On to some housekeeping. If at any time you need help with this experience, you're probably quite familiar with online events by now, but in case you do, there's a Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen, and please feel free to use it to type in your question. As well, I will ask the panel some questions as we go through the discussion, and then I'll turn it over to you as our audience to ask questions. If you have questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A section, again, using the same button, and I'll ask them to the panelists on your behalf once we conclude the initial part of the panel. So what is the GRADitude program? The GRADitude program is a program created by the Alumni Engagement Team along with our amazing alumni volunteers to honor, celebrate, and empower our graduating classes and young alumni. One of the greatest gifts of a York education is the connection to a global community of alumni changemakers. While we traditionally connected in person, this year has brought about challenges to how we meet and how we connect. And once again, our student and alumni community have risen to the challenge. Today, and over the next few weeks, we will feature alumni speakers, all of whom have generously volunteered their time to guide our newest grads as you tackle your next steps in your career and life journey. These sessions are recorded, so feel free to visit the alumni channel on YouTube and feel free to watch these over and over again, and also visit the sessions that we recorded in June when we had our first class graduating virtually. Today's panel is brought to you in partnership with Manulife, York's life and travel insurance partner. Manulife has generously provided 4 $50 Shoppers Drug Mart e-gift cards for several lucky participants. So at the end of the panel, I will ask a poll question and all respondents will be entered into a draw to win. So a big thank you to Manulife for being such a wonderful partner to York. You each came here for a reason, and though we can't see you, we want to do our best to give you the insight and advice that is most helpful to you. So if you can kindly use the Q&A function right now and let us know what you hope to get out of this session. So just use that Q&A button. We'll give you a couple minutes and you can enter what you hope to get out of this session. Thank you for sharing. I hope to get a sense of what I can do as a new grad to stand out when I'm applying for jobs. Absolutely. Hoping to get resources and info, tips on how to increase our chances of getting hired, tips for networking and remote times, how to present ourselves to potential employers, to learn about work opportunities. Ooh, and congratulations to someone who's starting a new job on Monday. and wants to get off to a good start? Good. Okay, so having met last week with our wonderful alumni panelists, I know that they're going to answer a lot of the questions you have. So for the moment you've been waiting for, I'm honored to introduce you to our 4 alumni panelists. And alumni panelists, if you can just turn on your cameras now. I will ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves briefly. We have with us Ike, Denise, Shonagh, and David. And I'd like to ask them to just say a few words to introduce themselves. So first, we have Ike, Diversity, Leadership, and OD Coordinator at Insight. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Allison. Thanks for having me. A huge congratulations to all of the grads on this call today. Like Allison just mentioned, my name is Ike Saliu. I graduated from York with BHRM, so that's Bachelor's in Human Resources in 2016. Currently, I do work at Insight. I know Allison just mentioned my title, which is a mouthful, but I'm in a hybrid role within Insight as a recruiter and also a diversity specialist. And really, my main goal is to recruit amazing talent to the company and also to really push forward most of our diversity initiatives and also help with a lot of leadership trainings. When it comes to something that I really, really enjoyed, one of my best moments at York University. It would be in my last year in 2016 when I participated in the Multicultural Week. I was part of the African Students Association, and that year, just a brief of the Multicultural Week, it's a beautiful showcase of different cultures in York University. And so that year we became second overall. And that was just a huge way and one of the best ways to really just end my tenure at York University. I'm super excited also to just be here and talk to you guys about my experiences and of course to learn from my honorable panelists also. So I look forward to learning so much from you guys. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's so lovely to have you. Thanks for being here. Next, we have Denise, Campus Program Manager at Rogers. Denise, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Allison. And hi, everyone. I know that we can't be there in person, but I hope everyone is continuing to stay safe. And congratulations. If there's anywhere to be an alumni, it is York University. As you can see, we have a great supportive community here. So as mentioned, my name is Denise Bang, and I am a campus program manager for Rogers Communication. I am a twice over York alum, which means I have 2 degrees, not back to back. So the first one I did, I'm not going to even mention what year I completed again because it kind of slips my mind. I can promise you it was in the 2000s timeframe. So that was in psychology, as I do have a curiosity and understanding human behavior and the way that and why we behave that we do. And secondly, my second degree is in HR, which is my passion, and that was completed 4 years ago, back in 2016. And I would say my fondest memory of York University, besides the cheese pizza from Pizza Pizza, I would just say would be the diversity, kind of like what Ike was saying, is that whenever I walk on campus, there's always some sort of activity going on, whether it's a protest of student groups standing up for various things that they believe in, or whether it's promoting something internally, or whatever the case may be. There was always such passion, such livelihood on campus, and it's kind of sad that we can't do that now, thanks to our lovely friend COVID-19, who is, I'm sure everyone agrees, has certainly overstayed its welcome. I think it's time for it to leave very, very soon. Hopefully that's taking place in the next few months or so. I'm just being optimistic, but happy to be here. And as a campus program manager at Rogers, I am keen on providing the experience and that opportunity for new grads, seeing that I was part of York's co-op program and I was a product of the program. I understand the intimidation, the struggles, being a new grad, and especially now with things being so competitive, so questionable, so ambiguous. Now more than ever is when we need to kind of like let everyone know that we're in this together. But happy to hear from you guys later on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Denise. Next, we have Shonagh, who's Recruitment Manager at St. Elizabeth Healthcare. Shonagh, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks so much for the opportunity, and kind of again to everyone, congrats. It's an exciting time, and I hope, this session will kind of give you those wisdoms as I've been in your shoes, we'll say a few years back. I am at St. Elizabeth Healthcare, or if you visit our sort of website, SC Health, we are a healthcare provider. So we provide healthcare services across many different health systems across the country. As you can probably imagine right now, in the state of our COVID and everything, we're busier than ever, of course, looking for especially new nursing, rehab, different personal support, those type of positions. Where kind of got me here today is I am a sociology grad from about 2009. I did 4 years there and then continued some HR, just a postgraduate certificate. Memories, I'm going to convey to what Denise said. I really wish we could be there in person with you today. I was reminiscing walking through campus and those sort of pieces. I lived in Stong. For my first year, I lived in the village. If some of you saw my profile, I do enjoy athletics, so I was always playing some intramurals, and even just the friendships as well. I'm still friends with a lot of roommates and things that we carried on. So we just enjoyed moments to play, some volleyball and then go to Blueberry Hill or Falafel Hut. I think those were the names of the places we went to. Just those sort of pieces where you could just sit and kind of catch up. So those are kind of the memories that stick with me. I should also add, I did briefly for a summer work for York Housing. So that was an experience, cleaning all the dormers. So I feel with you if anyone of our guests have done that. So it was a great experience, but again, good friends in that I made from that as well. So, and thanks for letting me be here.
Wonderful. It's so lovely to have you. And now I'm missing the food on campus and not having to cook it myself. Last but not least, we have David, who's Director of Career Education and Development here at York University. David, over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. And thank you, Allison, for having me. And it's really wonderful to be able to share with you some knowledge and to learn from the fellow panelists. So congratulations to all who have recently graduated. In terms of my degree info from York, I graduated in 2012 from my BA in Political Science and French Studies. And then I graduated from my MED, Master's Education, in 2016. I did that part-time while working full-time in higher ed, in student affairs. And so right now, I actually started a new role as Director of Career Education and Development at York in August. So during the pandemic in remote circumstances, and interviewed online. So I'm happy we'll be talking about that. The fact that I work at the Career Education Development Center, I thought I'd mention to you, if you are recent grads, that you do have access to a full suite of individual, group, and online services that we offer. So you're able to access that. On the side, I teach martial arts, and then I run a relationship coaching business. And so those are some things that keep me engaged after hours, right? In terms of fondest memories, I couldn't help but smile just listening to our the three panelists, because really, I think my fondest memories are the camaraderie that I built and the friendships. I really think to the late nights I spent in the McLaughlin College Council office. For me, that's where I found my kind of involvement, was through the College Council office. And I was a commuter, didn't have a place really to sleep. And not that I sleep in the council office, but sometimes we would stay there till like 3 a.m. working on our homework and on the events we're planning for the community, to build community. And it's really through those moments when we would bond, really, through struggling through the academic and the student life experience, the good, bad, and the ups and downs. So I think fondly to those memories, yeah, looking forward to being back on campus to see what everything's like. Many months later. Thank you.
Wonderful, David. Lovely to have you. Wow, what an impressive group of alum. It's really heartwarming to hear your stories and to hear those positive memories that you have of campus days, and fingers crossed that we'll all be back there soon. So we're going to start with some questions for our panelists. And the first question goes to Denise. So the question is, as recruiters and hiring managers, what are the key qualities that you look for when hiring for entry-level roles? And how does a candidate demonstrate these qualities?
Thanks, Allison. So I know that when looking at a job description, it can be intimidating because they usually list hard technical skill sets first. And as new grads, we might not necessarily have those ready at hand. But there's one thing that I've learned from my experience working with hiring managers and recruiters and hiring myself is that you can be the best at what you do, but if you don't have the right attitude, if you don't have that likability factor, chances are these candidates won't get very far. So key qualities that we tend to look for is, does the candidate have a good head on their shoulders? Do they have an open mind? Considering how the economy, how the world is changing at a fast-paced rate, we're looking for people that are quick to adapt and can be part of the problem solving, not part of the problem, and keep up and grow where a business grows. Otherwise, chances are great folks that has high potential, they will get left behind if they don't adapt and be flexible through changes that comes our way. So those are really the key qualities that we look for, are, again, people that are looking to grow when we grow. And if you're not flexible and and you're a go-getter, then that's great. But I find that successful candidates are the ones that are, okay, you know what? I don't know what I don't know, but I'm willing to try. And I have these soft skill sets, having that great attitude, willingness to try, and willing to be part of the solution.
Thank you so much. That's really great, and it speaks to a lot of the skills that you would have gained regardless of what major you would have chosen. That people would really have those problem-solving skills and that attitude that they can convey in an interview. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to ask the next question to EK. In your opinion, how does a York education set our graduates apart in the job market?
Awesome. Thanks for that, Allison. I would like to look at that from two angles, really. The first angle just being the industry insight you get by coming to York. I know a lot of us experienced this from the different professors that we had in our different courses. A lot of them either came from the industry itself, or they are currently in contractual relationships with different companies right now in the industry. So not having your professors not just give you that theoretical spin to whatever you're learning, but also giving you the practical element is always helpful. And also when it comes to different case studies and capstone projects, I know when I was in HR, we worked a lot with real life cases. So we were given the opportunity to put ourselves in those scenarios and apply different principles we had learned in school. So that's one way I look at it, how York really differentiates, really equips their new grads. Another way is even giving you that opportunity to gain that practical experience. For example, Denise talked about how being a product of the co-op program. We have the co-op program in York. And as opposed to a lot of other schools, how York does theirs is that I think a lot of fields, different fields are eligible to participate in this co-op program. So even if you come into the university without necessarily signing up for a co-op program, you can still participate maybe from your second through your fourth year. And along the way, you also have guidance counselors that can help with your resume building, cover letters, mock interviews, etc. Another way would also be through the career center. You can always go in there to really help you develop maybe your 2 to 5 year short-term goals and how to get you there. Another way would also be the career fairs that we do have. You have over 6,000 employers coming into York University every single year. You can always take part. You can always go and meet these employers, submit your resumes, build your networks with these employers, or even I have so many examples, but I'll just stop at this final example of even when you look at the student associations. I did work in campus recruitment for a little bit, and what the student associations have done have been phenomenal, building networks with different professionals in different industries. So you can actually leave York University anywhere between 4 months to about 8 months worth of experience. And when you look at entry-level jobs, we're looking for people within 1 to 3 years of experience. So most times you have a lot of York University graduates who already have relevant experiences by the time they're done in their field. So I feel that these two different ways are how York University really prepares their grads from other grads, how really set aside their grads from other grads in the labor market.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many opportunities that our grads have had while they were students to be involved And I just want to note that those opportunities don't end after graduation. So if some of our newest grads are on this call and are interested in getting involved in alumni groups, that's something that we have as well. So if you're looking to make connections or build some leadership skills, that's something that you can learn more about at the Alumni and Friends website. The next question goes to David, and the question is, where should new grads go to find jobs? People often talk about the hidden job market. Is this a thing, and is it relevant during COVID-19, David?
That's a fantastic question, and just to build on Ike's point there, that I know you mentioned a lot of the career center services, and it's great. And I just to reiterate that you can access those, and I 100% agree that you should get involved in with the alumni associations and all the various leadership opportunities, because that is one of the best ways to tap into the hidden job market, networking. Right now, in terms of where you should find new grads, and I'll build on the networking piece, where new grads should find new jobs, I would highly recommend industry-specific job boards or industry-specific LinkedIn pages. Those are some of the best. So those I find are underutilized resources. So when I say that, I mean, for example, I've subscribed to the various higher education, because that's my field, newsletters, listservs, LinkedIn pages. I follow some of the thought leaders and the highly connected people in higher ed, because I'll often find out about jobs through those listservs and stuff like that are not necessarily on Indeed or on the larger network job boards. I think that actually about half the jobs I've had throughout my career, and you can take a look at my LinkedIn, have come directly or indirectly through the hidden job market. So what does that mean when we talk about a hidden job market? It's really about the jobs that are posted and filled. Sorry, they're filled without you actually seeing the job posting, right? And so that's the challenge. It's like, how do I apply to something if I don't even know the opportunity is available, right? And that's why I say the number one thing you could do is to network. Now, before, often networking is thought of as like outreaching to other people. I want to say another great way, and the way that I did it unintentionally. This is just reflecting back. It wasn't my intention, but my first few entry-level jobs were obtained through the hidden job market, and that's just because I really focused on, and because I loved my work, focused on doing really great work in the work I've had at the time. There was even a moment where I had a job that was like sort of like a coordinator level job, and I had to go back down to an assistant level job just due to the contract running out. I had to go change organizations. But even when I went to that assistant level job, I remember like being like, I just want to do the best work I can. And what happens is word gets out when you do an amazing job. And word gets out even if you're doing an amazing job when you're volunteering, when you're sitting on a board, when you're volunteering to plan an event. If you're doing amazing work, there's always a market for amazing people, right? So I think that's one of the best ways to network, and that's just to give yourself to the thing you're doing 100%. People will notice and be like, hey, I actually worked with somebody who was amazing at this thing. Let me put you in contact with that person. Now let's talk about outreach, like so network, a bit more traditional networking. And I just want to say that one of the things with networking is to focus less on trying to make a connection to get something out of it, right? That idea of in-person event where I've met people at networking events where the first thing they say to me is, here's my business card, blah, blah, blah. I don't even like that. That's a bit difficult to build a relationship. And when I'm networking, I rather build and nurture a relationship with somebody, right? I highly recommend you read How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a really great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I do this online? And if I could just share like 2 LinkedIn tips, and this applies to your social media and virtual events as well, like the ones you're attending today, is number one is to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And this comes from our career educators whom you can meet with at our career center. They'll recommend that you optimize your profile with the right keywords representing the skills, the knowledge, or the terms from your industry, because you want to make the LinkedIn algorithm work for you. You want to show up in the search results, and that really happens through the activity you're doing on LinkedIn and the words you put on LinkedIn, right? So mine is optimized around higher ed. And basically, you pick your industry and then put the words that you want, share articles from that industry, make connections in that industry, so the algorithm ties you to that industry when jobs are being sought after. Number 2 is to then add relevant connections, people, by sending customized invitations. I have hundreds of invitations that I haven't accepted yet because they're not customized invitations, and I can't really picture if I can't remember if I know you or where I know you from. I would really appreciate a customized invitation. most likely I'll click right away to accept if you're sending me that. The other thing is to find out who to add as a connection is really check maybe some target companies you're interested in or industries and look at who's following them, see who works there, then start talk to them. And when I say start talking to them, I don't necessarily mean send a direct message right away. I mean, read their posts, like and comment on their posts shared by those connections, and stay top of mind by sharing your own content, articles, videos, photos. It doesn't need to be original content. You don't need to become Gary V right away, right? But you can share articles that you've read. Remember how I said follow newsletters? That's an easy one. You get a newsletter with an amazing article, you take the URL, you share it on your own LinkedIn and give a little sentence, ask a little question. You're good to go. So that's how I'd say that you could network on LinkedIn in order to tap into the hidden job market. Because from there, once you've nurtured that relationship, you can ask for an informational interview. You sit down with somebody, ask them about their day-to-day, and they could directly or indirectly provide you with some internal insight about how to apply in that industry, how to get started. That's my response.
David, thank you so much. That's some really great insight. And if anyone listening doesn't even know how to get started on LinkedIn, has never done that, does the Career Center offer some resources on learning how to get started on LinkedIn?
Yeah, Allison, that's a great question. We actually have a how to effectively use LinkedIn webinar that you can sign up for. We also have online resources that you can grab from the website there.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Allison.
Okay, I'm going to turn the next question to Shonagh, and then David, I'm going to let you add on as well. The question is one that a lot of new grads experience. So if you're thinking this, you're certainly not alone. Question is, if I have little to no experience to put on my resume, then what do I do with my resume? What do I put on? Shonagh, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first off, going into this, as a recruiter, I know you're a new grad and I know your resume is going to hold a lot of academic and educational achievements that you have. So I think you really need to capture, and similar to what, some of my colleagues here have said, is York does have a lot of coursework that has that practical experience. So make sure when you're capturing your resume that you're putting those pieces in, because those are relative, practical experience that you've had, whether you're interning or volunteering somewhere. I think those are important things that you need to put in there. Even your extracurriculars and those sort of things, those are things that we look at. Have you volunteered? Have you been involved with some of the clubs on campus? Those are sort of the things we look for, your kind of eagerness, involvement in different sort of levels, within York or externally as well. And then looking at your profile, what is it kind of you're going into the job, sort of what you're looking for. I'm looking to get experience, kind of capturing that, have you worked in Excel or PowerPoint, all those sort of pieces that you can capture for sure. And I often find with some newer graduates that they're afraid to put information of non-relevant field work. Like I worked at Starbucks, or I worked at, as a server at Moxie's. Put that on there. I've often have individuals that may not, put that there, but I'm to me, that screams customer service and client-centered care and all of those features. So don't sell yourself short in those sort of things. We all have to start it there. I think I said I worked at York Housing. That was on my resume at one point in my life. So, it does kind of get better with that, but I think those are sort of the main pieces that you can kind of capture in there, and just getting involved in different, if there's an industry, can you go volunteer at different things? We've done, charity runs and walks and things where people have signed up to help for our Hike for Hospice and things like that. Those are sort of pieces that definitely can kind of help you get started when you're just graduating, kind of making that first kind of professional resume.
Thanks so much. That's some really great advice. I really appreciate hearing, that people shouldn't sell themselves short on retail or other jobs that they may have had, and they can really harness those transferable skills and make those applicable to their career of choice. So thank you for sharing. David, do you want to add to that? What do we do if we feel like we have little or no experience?
Yeah, Shonagh, great points. And I'll just build on it, because I actually asked our two career educators, Dali and Saranjeet, what they do, how they advise students in this position. And it's exactly what Shonagh said, and I'll kind of break it down a little bit more in addition. So let's say you only have educational experience, no professional experience. As what Shonagh said, you have tons of transferable experience. So what we recommend is take one or two projects that you did. Maybe it's a group work, maybe it's something you did for Multicultural Week, as Ike said, right? There's tons of skills you learn by doing that. So pick those top two projects that relate to the skills that are sought after in that specific job you're applying for, whether it's critical thinking, whether it's flexibility, and then tell the story. Market yourself, tell the story of how that project you worked on in class or in co-op or in student life translates to what the employer is looking for you and the abilities that you have. And then describe it, right? And you can highlight any interpersonal skills you demonstrated as well as technical, and don't forget to share the result of the work you did in that statement, in that resume statement, in that cover letter statement. I also, Dali and Sarjeet also recommend social proof. Include the professor's feedback on that assignment you gave. Include that co-op supervisor's feedback in that resume. Include the result, even if it's a grade or something somebody said about a presentation you made. Include that result in your resume and cover letter as well. Social proof goes a long way. And then finally, just have a spirit of continuous improvement. Then once you land that first job that you gain at least 4 to 6 months of hands-on work experience in the field, you can then move that up above the educational experience I just talked about. And again, when I talk about educational experience, I'm talking coursework, experiential education opportunities, and just general student life opportunities. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks for adding that. So you mentioned cover letters, and I want to ask Denise if she can comment a little bit. Are cover letters important? And if so, how do I make mine stand out?
Absolutely. So I kind of gave a heads up that my answer will be very honest, but all in good context. So cover letters are absolutely important. It's always better to have one ready. Now the honesty part is, does it get read? And honest to truth is that no, not all the time. I know that we put a lot of work into writing an essay and a one-pager to kind of promote and advertise ourselves and our capabilities for employment. But truth is, recruiters and hiring managers don't always go through it. Now you might be wondering, well, then what's the point of the cover letter? It could make a world of a difference of you landing a job. So whenever there is, let's say, 2 candidates that are identical and the hiring manager comes down to deciding, their availability, and they only have one time slot to interview one more candidate, who do they pick between the 2 or the 3? And the resumes look similar. Well, that's where a cover letter can make that difference. And the reason why the cover letter is also important is that anything that you can't explain in your resume, and it goes back to Shonagh's and David's point, is if there are any transferable skills that are not as obvious and apparent on your resume, mention that in your cover letter. So if you don't have experience in, let's say, a particular program or tool set, and we'll use Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, and that's what employers are looking for, you can mention, I see that you're looking for an Excel expert or intermediate level, someone who is comfortable with manipulating data. I don't have that experience, but I am very, very comfortable with Google Sheets or Google Words or whatever the case is, and let them know that you're a fast learner, or I'm not familiar with this program that your company is working with right now, but I have experience working with something very, very similar. And it only took me a few weeks to ramp up and learn it, and I'm confident that I can do it as well. So back to the point, our cover letters, they're not always read, but it is very important to have one ready, just in case that's what makes a difference between you getting an interview and you not having one ready, and they can easily overlook a great candidate in yourself.
Sorry, took me a second to unmute myself. Thank you for that. A lot of really, really great points. David, do you have any thoughts on cover letters from where you sit?
Yeah, I agree with Denise. Again, I was speaking with Dali and Sarjeet, the career educators, on this topic, because I know myself, I will read the cover letters after I've shortlisted the candidates, and it does make a huge difference. And Dali and Sarjeet agree, career educators, they say that it's a great way to tell your story through narrative format. And I would add that story sells, right? Stories sell. Think about how Apple sells computers versus other companies maybe sells computers, right? It tells you your why as well, like what you stand for. And so I think really putting the effort. Now, if you're just cutting and pasting the same cover letter for every job, it's not going to help. So I highly recommend doing a targeted cover letter. Write your cover letter with that exact job posting in mind, and focus on the skills and abilities you possess that make you a strong fit. So my personal strategy is I'll typically take a look at the job description. I did this 5 months ago when I applied for my current job. And I look at the top 3 kind of major duties, at least that's how they break down the jobs here. but you could also the top 3 skills. And then in the cover letter, just make it really, really easy for the hiring manager to read it. I would literally name, I have like maybe 2 paragraphs in the body besides the intro and conclusion. And I name the top skill they're looking for. And I'll just say like, hey, you're looking for this? Here's a story of how I was able to demonstrate this. Oh, you're looking for this too? Here's a story of how I demonstrated this. And everything Denise said, it also applies. It's just another tactic you might want to use. So it's a great way to get the reader's attention and give them so that they can get a closer review of your so that they'll then zoom in and get lost in your story in a great way. Thank you.
Thanks. That's great advice. And it actually answers, we have a question that had just come in from Bo about what should I say as a message to the hiring manager. And I think you've captured exactly that's what you should say. You should tell them that you have demonstrated proof of the experience and skills that they're looking for. So thank you for that. Okay, let's turn it over to interviews. So now we're all interviewing by phone or by Zoom or other technologies. We're not interviewing face to face. So I'm going to ask Ike to comment on how can we rock our Zoom interviews.
Awesome. So for the Zoom interview, I kind of wanted to look at it from not just the Zoom, but any other virtual platform that you're using to interview. And it's pretty much very similar ideas. One thing that I really, really noticed that I feel a lot of people don't take into consideration would first be before the interview, at least 30 to 45 minutes, you want to make sure you download the Zoom application or the Microsoft Teams application, because I feel a lot of people sometimes underestimate the setup time. People think in a couple of seconds I'll be set up, but no, sometimes we don't know what goes wrong with technology, right? Something just happens and you're not able to, they can't hear you, the setup is taking longer, and the interviewer is confused and your cortisol is running so high. And so you're already so stressed before you get to the interview, and it can really, really affect your interview. So make sure you download the application ample time before the interview. Another tip is definitely just a couple of housekeeping rules. Make sure you're housing your Zoom interview in an area in your house or a friend's house where there's little to no distraction, because it can be very distracting, not just to yourself, but also to the interviewer. Also, make sure there's bright light so we can really see you, because unfortunately we're left to a virtual world right now. So I want to see who I'm talking to. That's very important for me. So make sure there's bright light. Make sure your camera angle isn't too high or too low. I'm just seeing your forehead or your hair. I want to see your face directly. Another tip that I feel is also very job specific or role specific is you can be more creative in a Zoom interview now or a virtual interview now. One thing that I've noticed that a couple of candidates have done in an interview with me is they create a slide, an introduction slide about themselves. It's such a little difference, but makes a huge difference. You know, the journey map, this is where I started from, and this is where I currently am. And I see all of the achievements. And now the interview switches from just all the questions I had prepared to, oh, tell me a little bit more about that. Talk about that project. I want to know about that. So you can be so much more creative. You don't necessarily need the permission of the interviewer to present beforehand. You can just say, you know what, I have a little slide. Do you mind if I present it? Most times they will say, yes, present that to the interviewer. If it's not a tell me about yourself, it can be something completely different that you want to present before the interview. That's also totally fine. Another tip is make sure you're professionally dressed. I know we're at home right now, and I don't want to make, even if you woke up 10 minutes before our interview, I don't want to know you woke up 10 minutes before our interview. Make sure you're dressed professionally in a dress shirt or, you know, a professional outfit. And I would advise for your bottoms too, make sure you're wearing maybe jeans or something professional, because now you're psyching your brain, letting yourself know this is very serious. So those are some of the tips that I came up with when I was thinking about a Zoom or a virtual interview. There's so many tips, but I find that these tips are very important. And of course, carry along the interview how you would if you were in person with this person always. So yeah.
Thank you. Those were some great tips. And, you know, I hadn't thought of the idea of preparing a slide about yourself, which is really great. I guess another thing that you could do is you can actually have notes in front of you, which is a little bit easier, although you don't want to be seen looking down as you're going through them. So maybe Zoom interviews have made it in some ways easier to portray yourself. And you don't have to worry about the bus breaking down or, you know, the TTC or whatnot.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you for that. I will note some of you are sending in questions via the Q&A function, and I want to remind our audience that that's just fine. So a lot of the questions you're asking are actually questions that we prepared to answer. So feel free to just keep your questions coming, and we'll try to answer them either in writing, or we'll ask them to the panelists as they come. So please do type any questions you have into the Q&A. Some of you are looking for jobs right now, and we have some alumni panelists here who are in the process of hiring. So I'd like to ask first Denise and then Shonagh a little bit about what's going on at your company. So Denise, is your company hiring right now? And if so, what are some of the ways that new grads can start a career at Rogers?
Absolutely. And I love this question because I am so happy to share that yes, Rogers Communication is hiring. And even during the start of this pandemic, I know that the economy took a hit and a lot of organizations understandably had to have a pause. Rogers was no different, but this is an example of how much focus and investment and support that Rogers has received from our CEO and other leaders that are supportive as well. During the pause of our hiring freeze and practices, they still continue to say, we'll continue with hiring co-ops, we'll continue with hiring new grads. Co-ops admittedly did slow down a bit back in March, but we're like zooming back up, and we're hiring for January of 2021 co-op roles for over 20 positions for 4 months. And for new grads, we have positions that are open for full-time permanent roles starting in May, over 100 all across Canada. And as a campus program manager, this is where I ensure that the work that is being hired into are meaningful, valuable. Just so that I like to tell them, like, hey, you know what, no bias, but York has a great variety in different disciplinary areas, whether it's for technologies, for HR, for finance, for business, you name it. We have great caliber students that are graduating from these programs. So how can students, and like, what can students do or new grads do to start a career here at Rogers is, well, reach out to me if you have any questions. We do have a few, or actually more than a few positions left remaining. Our applications did open up back in September, and they did close, but we are willing to like reopen any back up for any last minute positions that have come up. And again, it's all across Canada, and majority of them are in Toronto. And what new grads can do is that, like, speak about your passion. Like, what is it that you want to do? Are you interested in pursuing a role in marketing? Are you interested in pursuing a role in product management? Whatever the case is. And it's just having that conversation. And back to David's point earlier, is building that network. Even if there's not anything that's immediately at hand, don't get discouraged, because you don't know where the new relationship can take you. I've had many conversations with great students that have reached out in the past, and I told them, unfortunately, I don't have anything right now, but I was so impressed with the way that they presented themselves, that they were genuinely willing to, like, you know, showcase and demonstrate what they have and what they can provide as a new team member to wherever they land. Is that we continue the conversation, and it could be months down the line, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. Eventually, when there was an opportunity, I would think of that person, like, you know what, we have an opening. I gave great recommendations. When are you available to interview for this role? So yeah, don't, again, back to my point, don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen immediately. It's part of the waiting game sometimes. I know that we're all eager now that we have everything so readily available at hand. But yes, it's just starting to build up that connection firsthand. Yeah, that's my part.
Thank you, thank you. And what about Shonagh in the healthcare center? Are you hiring, and how do new grads access positions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now, you know, St. Elizabeth has always, you know, had these new grad nursing opportunities. You know, I think firsthand starting is sort of looking through our sort of job boards. We're across, you know, Ontario, so there's different things. Or if some of you alumni are out in Alberta, there's even those sort of nursing opportunities for sure firsthand. From nursing to, you know, therapists, kinesiologists. I know, you know, with such a large school of health kind of covering off all those things, we definitely get a lot of York grads that do come to us. Sort of coming into, you know, to those roles, even we looking at things, if you're not quite finished the program yet, like nursing students have opportunities to still work with us to like a personal support worker capacity to get sort of those experiences. What I find right now is, this is the time of year in the fall where we would be on campus and we would be doing those sort of things. So even our great recruitment team that we have, we are kind of taking much more to social media. So if you check out our Facebook pages, our Instagrams, Twitters, like those sort of things where we're kind of sharing kind of what's going on with our organization. We've even started doing virtual job fairs, like all these things, because we're not able to this time of year. We'd be downtown Toronto. There's the RNAO, all these things. So we've sort of jigged our even strategy in that sense. So being able to leverage social media platforms a bit more. So you can definitely do those sort of things. LinkedIn's a big one. I know David sort of touched on too. I'm on there almost every day, so sort of connecting, same sort of things, sending messages. And those pieces, kind of how it all sort of works, kind of to getting connected. And I think the big thing too is when I do have a new grad is if I've seen that you've kind of gone to the board and you know what the role is, definitely that you're applying to kind of convey that in the messaging over. So I'm not kind of seeing, I know you live in Newmarket, but I'm trying to, jig around what the connection is. So I think all those are sort of things to kind of look into. So hopefully next time we can be there with you guys. So
thanks for that. Appreciate it. So, this time, can be stressful. It's a recession. We're in a COVID-driven job market. While there's some industries that have more opportunities because of COVID, some have fewer. So, David, maybe you can comment on how can our new grads remain resilient and positive during this challenging time?
Yeah, thanks, Allison. I think absolutely acknowledging that it is harder perhaps right now. It is easier for certain industries at the same time. So I think that actually attending this panel and hearing our panelists speak and say they're hiring is an interesting message, because I think it's really important to know that companies are still hiring right now and that support is still out there. So if you head over to careers.yorku.ca and click on right on the first page, you're going to see COVID-19 resources for uncertain times. You'll see that we've created like a tip sheet, a labor market sheet. There's a link to jobs and career options during COVID, because as Allison said, some industries are hiring and some maybe a little lower, but you'll get a snapshot of which industries seem to be hiring, which industries maybe are back in an upswing. There's also like videos on recovering from layoffs, building a recession-proof career, etc. So I think that one way to stay resilient positive is to target your efforts, right? Sometimes it can feel really draining to just like send your cover letter, your resume all over the place, but maybe to target a bit and to be okay about changing industries, because again, skills are transferable. And you could think about the changing of industry as a short-term opportunity where, where might your skills still be helpful, even if it's not in your current industry, right? So local businesses are still hiring, essential retail, healthcare, banking, finance, tech, news, manufacturing, they're all still hiring. I think I saw an article that Amazon was hiring 10,000 employees for the holidays. And I know that might not be long-term, but even a short-term opportunity might help. And I know that it takes a certain amount of privilege to give yourself a break as well. But I know that many new grads I've spoken with have benefited from a couple months, just a break where they're not applying to anything. For them, that was their need for self-care. So really, I'm giving these suggestions, but what's best for your own kind of rhythm and life rhythm and where you're at. The other piece around staying resilient and positive, I would say, is thinking about the confidence-competence loop, meaning you build confidence by building some competence, skills, abilities, and then the cycle, it's a virtuous cycle. So I think now's a really good time to take an inventory of your own assets. Look at the skills required for your target jobs, right? Then take advantage of the online learning or educational opportunities to expand your skill set. Volunteerism as well, right? I believe some alumni have access to the LinkedIn Learning platform, but there are other platforms as well. I see Allison nodding head yes. And so that's a great way to access. If you're somebody you're in the season of life where you're like, yes, I want to gain skills. I saw on Instagram, Tom Billier, he had a little quote that said, in times of trouble, return to improving your product and performance. That's how you become untouchable. right? So if you're in that spirit where you're wanting to improve, you're wanting to build your skill set, let that be kind of like a guiding North Star there. In times of trouble, return to improving your product or your performance. That's how you become untouchable. And finally, I'll just say that we're social beings, right? So take time to nurture your relationships with loved ones, your network, because you're not alone. And I know a lot of people are experiencing the pandemic in different ways, and navigating careers and in different ways. And I think just having conversations and dialogue about that is really important. Thanks.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that, and so many great nuggets to think of when the going gets tough. Ike, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, David covered so many things, if not all of it, but just another add-on that I would add would be you need to set a schedule. My friends and I always talk about how applying to jobs is a full-time job on its own. So you want to set a schedule for yourself, maybe from 10 to 12 every single day I'm applying, because what that does is it makes you become very focused and very driven and determined. Even on your off days, you just remember, okay, you know what, I set a schedule, so I'm going to keep at this for now. Trust me, I do understand it's very discouraging. Sometimes you're sending your resumes to hundreds of people and you're not even getting any response. I definitely understand that feeling, but a schedule would really help. At the same time, you also want to apply to also want to set a schedule, actually set a time in your schedule where you're applying to a lot of where you're looking for virtual job fairs, because we have right now a lot of virtual job fairs going on. I know the market is kind of mixed. Some people are not hiring, some jobs are hiring, but the jobs that are hiring, some of them are actually hosting virtual job fairs. So look for a lot of those virtual job fairs. Build your networks when you go to the virtual job fairs. Connect with the participants on LinkedIn or through virtual coffee. I've done that a couple of times with new grads. It's just a different way and a different outlook to just things, because we have to be very creative in this time and we have to try as many things. Something would eventually stick on the wall. That's how I see it. And so that would be my tips, just some add-ons to what David said.
Ike, well, I have you still live here. Okay. There are a few questions coming in for our audience who were studying as international students, and so they're just recent grads. Any specific advice that you would offer for people who are international?
International new grads. Yeah, I mean, yeah, my accent definitely is a giveaway. I would say, I know one thing that I did do when I was in York was I connected with the international, I've forgotten the name of the association, but they really helped in terms of helping me look for jobs. So connecting with them and understanding and using them to help you maybe build your resume, or using them to help connect you with fellow international students that were at York, or different international students opportunities that are available would also really help you. So I would say that would be my tips around looking for jobs. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn if you want something more specific in relation to your field of study.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we have a lot of questions coming in, and we so appreciate your questions, but we are running out of time, and we do have to do the draw for those $50 gift cards. So the questions that are coming in are around getting references, are about career gaps, maternity leaves, changing from one path of study to another. So I'm going to make the suggestion that folks who still have those questions, that they maybe connect with the Career Center as places to get answers to those questions, which are really quite specific to them. Does anyone have any final thought that we haven't let you share that you can share in 30 seconds or less? Okay, yes?
Oh, I just wanted to share that with what we're all going through right now, I know that it's kind of hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it continues to stretch longer, is just don't give up on yourself. I know that it can be daunting, it can be draining, but just know that like you have a great support system here with the Career Center, with the alum group, and at York University overall. So these things don't happen right away, but I am a strong believer that things are meant to work out the way that they do. So just continue to keep the faith and the hope.
Thank you. I think that's a really wonderful way to end our panel discussion. And I know a number of you have said that you can be found on LinkedIn. So to our new grads, feel free to do so. On behalf of all of us, thank you, Denise, Ike, Shonagh, David, for being here with us today. You have shared so much wonderful information, experience, passion, and good wishes. And we so appreciate your insight and you being here with us. So thank you. We wish you well. And we're going to allow you to turn off your cameras at this point if you'd like, and turn it over to some concluding remarks. Wonderful. So to our class of 2020, our students, alumni, and friends, thank you for joining us. If you, as I'm just going through a couple closing remarks, if there was anything that was particularly meaningful to you during this presentation, please feel free to just write a note in the Q&A section, just letting us know what you found important, insightful, and we really, really appreciate that feedback. That's feedback that we can share with our panelists and that we can know for the future in planning these sessions. So just type in what was most meaningful to you in the Q&A as the thoughts come to you. As well, for any time that you have ideas, thoughts, suggestions, please feel free to reach out to the alumni engagement team. We can be reached at alumni@urq.ca, and always want to hear from our grads, especially our newest grads. We want to hear how York as a university can support you and help you accomplish the great results of all the hard work that you put on in studying here. So at this point, I would like to introduce the poll, and with our wonderful partner and sponsor, Manulife, you can feel free to participate in this poll for a chance to win one of 4 $50 e-gift cards from Shoppers Drug Mart. So the poll should appear on your screen momentarily. And the poll reads, and choose the right answer, skill testing question. What is the best reason to invest in life insurance? As you may know, Manulife is our partner that offers life insurance as well as travel insurance. So feel free to choose the answer that is right. Should you invest because your uncle is an insurance agent, because you're expecting a flood, or because you're expecting the unexpected? So we will notify the 4 lucky winners after the event, and we will e-transfer you the gift card. Thank you all so much for being with us today, and feel free to share today's talk with your friends. It will be posted on York's YouTube channel. You could also follow us on really any social media channel that you're most comfortable with, and feel free to communicate with us again at alumni@urq.ca. Remember, as David said, that York's Career Center remains fully open to grads within 2 years of graduation. My favorite tool that they have is an offering that's called What Can I Do With My Degree, as well as the latest resources they have on how to job search during COVID. So please use those sessions. Feel free to join us next week as GRADitude continues. Next week, we'll be talking about negotiating, and we've got some alum who will chat about that. And the following week, we will be hearing about money matters and how to be financially prudent as we build our careers. Finally, I'd like to invite you all to join us in a wonderful celebration of York alumni that's taking place next week on Thursday. On Thursday of next week, it's the York University Alumni Celebration, and we have really exciting guests who are coming, including some celebrities, the playwrights from Come From Away, David and Irene, Cardinal Official, who went to York, and a number of other special guests will be joining us. So go to Alumni and Friends for any information that you want, or feel free to always email us at alumni@urq.ca. Thank you once again for attending today's session. We hope that it was worthwhile, and we wish you all continued health and wellness during this time. Bye-bye.